Weilà, weilà, raga. How's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's lesson on the present conditional. This is yet another lesson in our series of Zero to Hero Italian grammar, where we are looking at Italian from the most basic all the way up to the most advanced topics. So we're pretty much starting to get there now. The conditional is definitely the beginning of the upper intermediate, lower advanced topics. So this is definitely going to set the groundwork for a lot of stuff that's to come. Let's head on over to the digital whiteboard and let's begin with our title, Condizionale Presente. Okay, so what is the condizionale presente? This is when we're talking about things that you would, should, or could do. These are all more or less hypothetical things that have a potential to take place, let's say, especially when we're talking about something like would, right? Now, there are different verb endings that we're going to be looking at. There are several verbs that we need to help us. We've got modal verbs we'll be looking at, which are essentially like auxiliary verbs. They help another verb to change in meaning. So we've got a few verbs that are important. So important verbs are potere and dovere. Potere means to be able to. Dovere means have to or must. So to be able to. It's also used just for saying can. Dovere means to have to or must. However, in the conditional, they're going to take on two slightly different meanings, which we're going to look at in just a moment. But anyway, we use the condizionale when we're talking about things that we would, should, or could do. All right, let us begin with the verb endings for all regular are verbs. I believe are and ere share verb endings, yeah, because I could say parlerei and I can also say scriverei. Yep, so are and ere share the same verb endings. It's going to be, all of the verb endings will begin with an E. So, well, we're going to put them down below, actually, because it's not just one verb ending. So they're all going to have an E before the R. That's the way that I look at it. And then I'll explain what that means, because this is my way of doing it, but there's also another way that I use usually when I teach. But anyway, I before the R. Okay. So I'll show you. Let's look at my way first, okay? My way is this. I view it as io will be rei. These are just verb endings. Tu resti. Lui, lei will end in rebbe. Noi will end in remmo. Voi will end in reste. Loro will end in rebbero. And then depending if it's an ire or are or ere verb, you're either going to put an E before that R that we see down here in all of the verb endings, or you're going to put an I. That's the way that I like to look at it. So let's just see that straight up in verb conjugations right away. So let's begin with a verb such as parlare. So parlare means to talk. If we want to say, I would talk, you would talk, he, she, it would talk, and so on. Anytime you want to say would do something, take these verb endings that we have right here and put them at the end of a verb. That's how you get to would. So we're now going to say would talk. Okay. That's the meaning that we're going to get to. Would talk. Io parlerei. Tu parleresti. Lui, lei, parlerebbe. Parlerebbe. Ecco. Noi parleremmo. Parleremmo. With two M's, one M is only the future tense. Voi parlereste. Loro parlerebbero. I've always loved that sound. Parlerebbero. So nice. So all of these mean would talk. I would talk, you would talk, he, she, it would talk, and so on. Let's put some examples here. For example, parlerei l'italiano. So I would speak Italian tutta la giornata se possibile. So what does this mean? Possibile. This is a nice exclamation. This means I would speak Italian all day if possible. So this is something that is not happening right now, but it could happen in the future. Specifically, I would speak, something that would take place if certain conditions were met. Hence, conditional, right? So, parlerei. There we go. I would speak. In English, we use the modal verb would. In Italian, there is no standalone word for would. So that is an important thing to note. In Italian, there is no word for would. To achieve this meaning, we simply conjugate, I think that's with the J first. Yeah, pretty sure. We simply conjugate any verb in the condizionale presente. Nice. Now, seeing as the ere verb endings are exactly the same as the are verb endings, let's go ahead and take a look at an ire verb. Keeping in mind that at the end of the day, the verb endings are still re, resti, rebbe, and so on. We're just going to put an I before those verb endings. So let's take a look at dormire. I always go for that one. Dormire means to sleep. We now want to say would sleep. So that's the meaning we're going to get to. Would sleep. Okay, we have io dormirei. Tu dormiresti. Let's just fix that I on the digital board. The letter I sometimes just gets dragged. Lui, lei dormirebbe. Okay. Noi dormiremmo. Voi dormireste. Loro dormirebbero. Those all mean would sleep. So let's put this in a context here. For example, we can say dormiresti a casa mia. Dormiresti a casa mia. That's like saying, would you sleep at my house? Would you sleep at my house? Now, usually what happens in a lot of these situations is we add something else, like a particular condition. It tends to be something in what we call the congiuntivo, usually the congiuntivo imperfetto. And what it then basically becomes is what we call the periodo ipotetico. Now, I've already got videos covering this on my channel. In fact, basically everything we've been going through in this series so far, in one way or another, I've already covered on my channel. But we're specifically doing this series for someone who wants to just kind of see everything all at once, week after week, as I'm planning on uploading these in the present time. But you could see what happens. I'm going to show you it also now, and then we'll most likely get to this again in the future. So there's something called the periodo ipotetico, where we use congiuntivo and condizionale insieme, together. So for example, dormiresti a casa mia, which is a very common way of saying at my house, se avessi un letto supplementare, or se avessi lo spazio, really. Supplementare, and let's put in the io. So this means, would you sleep at my house if I had an extra bed? Supplementare is a way of saying extra in Italian. So would you sleep at my house if I had an extra bed? Avessi is the congiuntivo imperfetto. Oops, let's go back to pen. This is the congiuntivo imperfetto form, which is always used for hypothetical situations. So the conditional mood and the subjunctive mood, they go together very, very nicely. So this is to come in a future lesson, but we already have lessons covering these as well already on my channel, and I can have them linked below down in the description for you guys. Okay, so that's how we do bello bello, as I like to say, nice and nice. That's how we do would you sleep in Irreverb. Now, what I'd like to do is also cover avere and essere, because they're very important, and then potere and dovere, because those are the ways that we say should and could in the conditional. Let's first begin with avere and essere. We're now entering irregular verb territory here. So to say would have, io avrei, tu avresti, and before I go on, I believe we saw this also with the future tense. There's also a reason why I prefer calling these the re restirebbes, because with irregular verbs that we happen to use a lot, such as avere, in this particular situation, there is no extra e before the r. So there could also be a reason as to why I like calling them re restirebbes. Lui, lei avrebbe, noi avremmo, voi avreste, loro avrebbero. And essere, these are all used to mean would have. For avere, would be. So would have in the conditional. This is would be. Okay. Io sarei, tu saresti, you would be, lui, lei sarebbe, noi saremmo, voi sareste, loro sarebbero. All right. So, we could say something such as, using avere, we could say, let's do, maybe noi avremmo. We would have, what would we have? We would have a lot of money, let's just say. Avremmo molti soldi. And then usually you're gonna need something else after that, such as in the periodo ipotetico, using the congiuntivo imperfetto, like we would have a lot of money if blah, blah, blah. So avremmo molti soldi means we'd have a lot of money. And let's use essere. Maybe we could say sarebbe bello. That's very common in Italian. Sarebbe bello. That means that would be nice. If you want something to happen, you can say dai, sarebbe bello. That would be nice. Literally, it can also mean that would be pretty or that would be beautiful, but sarebbe bello is a very, very common expression in Italian to mean that would be nice. So now let's move on to potere and dovere. So potere, as we had said earlier before, it means to be able to or can. In the conditional, it means could. So it's very, very important because we're going to be using this as a modal verb. Basically, it serves a similar function to a helping verb, because if we want to say could do anything, could eat, could swim, could see, and so on, we need potere. When we were just saying would, there is no verb for would in Italian. You just conjugate the verb. But with could and should, you need an additional verb. So we say io potrei. This is an irregular verb. So it's just a re restirebbe, no additional e. Tu potresti. Lui, lei, potrebbe. Noi potremmo. Voi potreste. Loro potrebbero. Nice. For example, we could say potrei venire in Italia quest'estate. So I could come to Italy this summer, però non ne sono sicuro ancora. Or non ne sono ancora sicuro. You could also say it that way. This means I could come to Italy this summer. However, or but, I'm not sure of it yet. So I'm not sure I'm going to be able to do that just yet. That's what that ne means. We're going to do a whole lesson on ne. I've also already got a video on it. But yes, ne is very, very useful. So potrei venire. I could come. All you have to do is take potere, put it in its conditional form, and then just put any verb next to it. The verb next to it is the verb that is expressing the main action. What could you do? In this situation, I could come. We do the same exact thing for dovere. Let's take a look at that. So dovere usually means have to or must, but in the conditional, it means should. So let's conjugate it in the conditional. Io dovrei. Tu dovresti. Lui, lei dovrebbe. Noi dovremmo. Voi dovreste. Loro dovrebbero. Nice. I always use this as an example. Dovresti chiamare tua mamma più spesso. So this means you should call your mom more often. Ecco. Dovresti chiamare tua mamma più spesso. You should call your mom more often. Now, if instead of dovresti, I said potresti, that would mean you could call. So let's take a look at that really quickly, just to reiterate everything we've done, because this is basically the entirety of the lesson. So if you just said, chiameresti. Chiameresti means you would call. All we did here was took chiamare and used a conditional verb ending. If I want, and this would means you would call. If I want to say you could call, I need a modal verb. I need potere in the conditional. So it would be potresti chiamare. And we don't conjugate the second verb. This is you could call. Seeing as this is the main action, I'll underline it. So potresti chiamare is you could call. And now to say you should call, we say dovresti chiamare. which is you should call. So as you can see, it's really straightforward. Obviously, we've got a new set of verb endings to remember, but once you get the hang of it, it's like, okay, I see this resti ending just with regular verbs. If it's an ade verb or an ede verb, there's going to be an extra e there before the verb ending, and if it's an ide verb, it's going to have an I before it. But we use the irregular verbs all the time in the conditional, so they're quite common. So it probably will make the memorization a little bit easier. And this is basically it. This is how you say would, should, or could. This is now the foundation for what we're going to use when we cover the condizionale passato. So yeah, guys, that's going to be it for today's lesson. Thank you very much for tuning in and checking it out. Be sure to take a look at the other lessons we've done so far in this series and also other videos that I mentioned that I have on my channel. That's going to be it for today. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Always remember to spread the love, and I'll catch you guys all next time. Ciao ciao, alla prossima!